Imagine the following scene. You come home and catch your mother-in-law rolling every corner of your room, with the disadvantage of those who feel entitled to invade your privacy. I'm just checking if this one is not cheating on you, my son, she declares, as if she were the guardian of the couple's morals. And when, unintentionally, a pair of gold earrings that are not hers fall from your bag, the show is just beginning. Good night, dear listeners. I am Andre Branco, and it is with great satisfaction that I receive them here on the Intrelated Allness channel to share a story that will make you rethink the boundaries between care and obsession. Get ready, because this narrative is one of those that move the deepest structures of family relationships. Irina Kudryachova has never considered a perfect mother-in-law after all. Who is it? But one thing she was absolutely. Her son Dmitri was a man of value, and deserved much more than that woman, the Svetlana, who, in her opinion, was just a class opportunist. It all started 3 months ago when the couple finally moved to their own apartment. Before that, they lived under the same ceiling as Irina, who could thus watch every step of her daughter-in-law, every sigh, every decision. But now she depended on sporadic visits and increasingly rare bonds of Dmitri, who, in her eyes, seemed to distance herself every day. The worst was Svetlana's attitude. Before, at least pretended sympathy. Now I received it with a forced, almost hostile smile. For Irina, that was clear sign something was wrong, and if there was betrayal in the air, she would unravel her. It was then that fate gave him the perfect opportunity. That morning Dmitri called, warning that he and Svetlana would stay at work until late, and asked her mother to pass there to water the plants. Irina, of course, had a reserved key for security, as he justified at the time of change. Upon entering the apartment, he greeted the plants with an ironic smile. But its true goal was beyond the room, the closed door of the bedroom. If Svetlana hid something, that's where the evidence would be. With firm hands, he searched his head drawers, peered under the mattress, flew in the pockets of the closet's clothes. Nothing abnormal until their fingers touched the jewelry box over the dressing table. There, between bracelets and rings, golden earrings with diamonds shone, pieces that cost a fortune. How does a simple accountant get something like this? He thought, with disdain. Certainly a gift from a lover. Without hesitation, he put them in his bag. Would be the irrefutable proof of infidelity. And it didn't stop there. In a nightstand drawer, he found an envelope with photos, Svetlana laughing, hugging a man who was not Dmitri, in a restaurant. There it is. He triumphed, snatching those images. So absorbed it was in his mission that he did not realize time pass. The noise of the key in the lock caught her by surprise. Still with her hands dipped on her daughter-in-law's underwear, Dmitri and Svetlana stopped at the door, dirty. The scene was so absurd that it bordered on the comic. It was not the severity of the situation. Mom, what are you doing? Dmitri could barely articulate the words, while Irina straightened, with the winded dignity of those who were caught in the act, but refuses to admit the error. I'm protecting you, my son. This woman is deceiving you, he said, pointing to Svetlana with contempt. The daughter-in-law's face was pale with anger. Before she could react, Irina pulled her bag to show her trials, but in a hurry, she knocked on the floor. Between makeup and scarves, the gold earrings were reluctant as an accusation. These are mine, shouted Svetlana, shooting to catch them. They presented me on my 30th birthday. You were there. See, when my parents gave me! Exclamation. Dmitri was looking at his mother with a mixture of disappointment and fury in the eyes. This was not the woman who had created him, but a strange, willing to everything to just stay your paranoia. Did you stole my wife? Her voice was a cold whisper. I didn't stole. I got it as proof, justified Irina, desperate. Where would you take money for something so expensive? From my parents, Svetlana shouted, holding the photos that had also fallen. These photos? That was at the company's dinner 3 months ago. You were sick, Dmitri, remember? This man is the workmate, and the woman is his wife! Exclamation. Dmitri remembered that day. Indeed, Svetlana had gone to the event alone, while he had stayed at home with fever. The puzzle pieces fitted, and the mother's version collapsed like a castle of cards. I didn't know, Irina murmured, feeling the floor disappeared under his feet. I did not know. Dmitri's voice cut the air like a blade. Didn't you know when you rolled our things? When did you stole what is my wife? In the name of what, mother? To protect our marriage, to protect you. She tried to defend herself, but the word sounded empty. Protect me from what? From the happiness I have by her side? Dmitri embraced Svetlana, who was shaking with indignation. 3 years, mother. 3 years I can handle your intrusions, your advice not requested, your criticism of my wife, to our life. But that went too far. With a firm gesture, he pointed to the door. Take your things, and leave the keys, Dmitri. You can't do that, I pleaded. Irina, But the son was no longer the boy who obeyed every word of his "I can" and "I go." The keys, mother. Now she handed over the keys, sauce, handy hands. Tried one last argument: Colon and the plants. Who will water them when you are not? We'll buy an automatic system, Dmitri replied. Dry-eyed Irina collected her things from the floor, each heavy movement like lead. When he left, he turned one last time, seeking in the eyes of his son some trace of the affection before. But all he saw was a stranger, a man who had finally learned to say no. And the door closed behind her. Forever. As soon as the door closed behind Irina, Svetlana sank on the couch and let her tears fall, not pain, but relief. Finally, after years of suffocating silences and judges, Dmitri had seen the naked and raw truth. The mother he idealized was, in fact, a protective disguised executioner. He sat next to his wife, pulling her close with an urgency that spoke more than words. "Forgive me," he whispered, his voice broken and a guilt he had been carrying too long. "I should have stopped her years ago." And so the long and painful healing process began. In the following months, Irina Mikhailovna tried everything to regain her son. Midnight bonds, unexpected office visits, messages sent through distant cousins. Each attempt was a blow to injured pride, a desperate negotiation with one's own conscience. "I just wanted the best for you," he repeated as a mantra, as if good intentions justified the invasion, the theft, the unfounded accusations. But Dmitri remained uncompromising, a wall of silence and determination. There would be no reconciliation until his mother, kneeling metaphorically at Svetlana's feet, and admitted, without lame excuses, the damage he had caused. Irina's pride, however, was an old fortress. She saw herself like the victim, a devoted mother, betrayed by her son's ingratitude and the cunning of her daughter-in-law. "They don't understand my love," he murmured in the mirror, while wrinkles deepened and white hair multiplied, until, a year later, Dmitri's dry-eyed Svetlana as pregnant hit her as a punch in the stomach. The news, delivered with the coldness of a meteorological bulletin, collapsed its last defenses. She cried. He pleaded, promised to change, but bumped into the same condition. First, ask for forgiveness to Svetlana. Then, promise never interfered again. When the grandson was born, Irina appeared in the hospital with such an exuberant bouquet that it looked more like an apology in the form of flowers. Svetlana accepted the gift, but kept the distance and polite smile, measured words, the same tone he would use with an acquaintance of elevator. The years passed, and the boy grew up knowing his grandmother only by sight, a rigid figure of sporadic visits, always under the careful supervision of his parents. He cringed as she approached, instinctively seeking her mother's lap. It was the price of Irina's stubbornness, recorded in the fear of a child. Until, one day, while listening to a neighbor boasting from the afternoons with his grandchildren, something inside it snapped. It was not the words of the other woman, but the image they evoked, a future in which her own grandson would remember her, if she would remember her, like a strange of hard and present eyes rejected. That night she dialed Dmitri's number with hands that trembled, not angry but shame. "I need to see you," he said, his voice hoarse. "Not over the phone. Personally." They found themselves in a corner coffee, the kind that no one frequents by chance. Irina arrived with her shoulders bent, as if she carries the weight of each word not said, of each stolen syringe, of each suspicion thrown like a knife. The 3 years of silent war had stolen him more than his son. They had stolen the illusion that he was right. "Dima," he began, and the name came out as a confession. "I want to apologize to Svetlana. In truth, no justifications, without making me a martyr." Dmitri's eyes, always so similar to his, scanned his face in search of traps. But this time, there was no calculation there, just a deep tiredness, the type that comes when it is perceived, too late, that the battle had been lost for a long time. "It has to be honest," he warned. "No words, without blaming others. Just the truth." The next day, Irina knocked on the door of the young people with a knot in her throat. Svetlana received her with the caution of those who have already been bitten by the same snake, but let her in. The room looked smaller, the dense air. Irina took a deep breath. "Svetlana," he said, staring at her for the first time in years, "I came to ask for forgiveness. For your things turned as if they were mine. For your syringes I stole, like a petty thief. For the disgusting accusations I played on you without a test shadow." He paused, swallowing pride as a pointed bone. "For 3 years of torture disguised as concern. There were no excuses that could fix the past, and she knew that. I know you may not forgive me, but I need you to know I will never cross this door without being invited. I will never give non-ordered guesses. I will learn to be a real grandmother if you give me that chance." Svetlana looked at Dmitri, seeking in her confirmation that this was no longer a game. In her husband's eyes, he saw something I had not seen for a long time: hope. After all, It was your mother. And sometimes even the back wounds deserve a second chance. Okay, he murmured finally. Let's try to start from scratch. It would take 2 more years for distrust to become complicity. Irina fulfilled the word. It did not criticize, did not invade, did not help without being called. He learned to wait for the invitation, to offer lap without demanding gratitude, to be presence without being weight. Little by little, Svetlana stopped trying her shoulders when she entered a room. The grandson, now a talking child, ran toward him on sunny Sundays, asking for cookies and stories. When the second child was born, it was Irina who followed Svetlana to the bedroom, who warmed the bottle in the early hours, who held the baby while the daughter-in-law slept only when they asked, only when it was welcome. Today, when flipping through the family albums, where genuine smiles replaced the tense looks, Irina sometimes doing an old photo colon saying, years earlier, holding a pair of syringes as if they were evidence of a crime, and then wonders, with the tightness in the chest, how it was possible to almost destroy everything because of a handful of metal and the arrogance of thinking that love is in control. The answer, she knows, is in her small hands that now roll into her, and the grandmother tells another story that echoes around the house. Sometimes redemption comes late, but when it arrives, it brings with it the most cruel and necessary lesson. To love is not to possess, and that the second chance when deserved are the greatest gift that life offers us.